Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Andy, hope you had a good week, man. I enjoyed my week off, doing a little skiing up in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It was tough to come home. It was pretty outstanding. Most difficult place to ski in North America, in my opinion, and I don't think it's close. But it was the most vertical feet I've ever skied in a week. It was the most aggressive I've ever skied at a resort, so I'm pretty satisfied with myself. And I'm ready to get back into to talking about legal tampering. How was your legal tampering period?
It was fun. I mean, they were coming fast and furious. Obviously, the big names were the big news, but a lot of teams made a lot of moves, and
a lot of Jets quarterbacks of old and past kind of stealing the show.
Yeah, I was thinking back. If you were like, let's say you're a Bears fan in, when was Fields drafted? 2000?
It was 2021 because that was the class that was
2000. I meant
that was the class that was donked by the COVID year, right?
So Rodgers would have still been in Green Bay.
Yeah.
You tell a Bear, you go in a time machine and tell the Bears fan at some point Justin Fields is going to take over for Aaron Rodgers. And it's like, what? Why would we sign him? And you tell them what year it is too. It's in 3 years.
What?
It wouldn't make any sense. And it'd be fun.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Finally, it would. Yeah, that's. I mean, we talked about this a couple times. We talked about it during the season. There wasn't going to be a strong class of quarterbacks, knowing, if you believe Rodgers is well past his serviceable years, if you believe that Kirk Cousins, what we saw on the field was accurate, an accurate depiction of what we're going to get in the future, it kind of leaves you with like Geno Darnold and a bunch of fluff after that. Because, there's Russ and Fields, I guess, but I mean, none of it is very exciting. And so many quarterback needy teams. It's funny. They all got gobbled up except one guy. Daniel Jones got a deal before Rodgers. And truthfully, I wonder, just because Aaron likes people talking about him, it feels like he drags his feet on everything just to stay in the news a little longer. Because he's
you think that he is that's what's happening and not a soft market for demand of his services?
I think it is pretty soft because it's basically down to two teams. Rossini tweeted that someone was going to, or that Minnesota was thinking about it, but I thought I saw Kwesi literally come out and say, we're not doing that. Like that wasn't, but Minnesota does need a quarterback. Like you probably want somebody in-house who's played a little bit to help help JJ get his feet under him, I guess.
I mean, or just like kind of protect from risk of re-injury. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, let's I found overall it was a little uninspiring.
I mean, what
but I really like your format for talking about this. The prize player?
Yeah, I mean,
I think the best player was T. Higgins, and he hit the market, right?
Yeah, it was like Higgins, Darnold. Like, these are your prizes. It wasn't ever going to be like oh my God, this guy.
Yeah,
I can't believe we got this guy.
I mean, the most well-respected free agent ranker that I know, and Greg Rosenthal had Milton Williams as the top-rated guy who actually got picked up anywhere, which is wild. I would say the biggest win guy who carried the most probably win shares is like maybe Geno, maybe Darnold. I don't know, man. It was a pretty lackluster deal. But it didn't change from sort of being able to take all of the information in, look at it in the context of what is this telling us about what these teams, how are they evaluating their strengths and weaknesses? because you can take a below replacement level performance and replace it with at least a replacement level or slightly above in free agency. And I think that's most of what we had this last week. And I think it's fun to kind of evaluate what did teams or kind of fun to know how did teams evaluate their own strengths and weaknesses. Where did they choose to allocate their resources? What in some cases, like the Saints, for instance, what were they going to do? And wow, that's what they're going to do. Okay.
Yeah.
And then even beyond that, like, I do think now that we kind of see just general divisional trends of like the NFC North, like everybody's just freaking trenches. Like, let's go. Like, this is, like trench warfare. All of a sudden, with the way the Bears and the Vikings are treating this offseason, and knowing that the Lions kind of dominated trenches last year in that division is fun as hell. Yeah, I mean, I think we can use the information we've gleaned now through this portion of free agency and call out some either some bets that we will make, or at least some prices that we're excited to see, and probably, given a certain favorable price, would be interested in. Is that a fair way to characterize this, or are you literally just like, these we're going ham here because I feel like you want to put your capital to work in the golf markets more than anything else, and I'm fully engaged in NBA to the point where
I'm playing some college basketball too. Like I don't love doing this as much as I used to. I don't love having, X amount of dollars sprayed into the NFL in freaking February and March, because I used to do that. Win totals come out, these are gonna move. I gotta get this, half game better on this one, and you let that money sit there for 11 months. So I don't do that as much as I used to. I do like to look at it from this point of view, though. This was, we pitched this as what if you had to make some bets? Like, what would be your favorite bets if you were looking at each division and say, hey, right now this is kind of where the movement is in my head as far as the hierarchy of these teams, and given some favorable prices, this is a team I could back. This is a team I could fade. This is a team I really like the makeup of. This is a team I like the direction they're heading, because these teams aren't finished. We have the draft in 6 weeks. We can certainly see some trades and more free agents, and some guys haven't even been let go yet that are going to be let go and going to hit the free agent market at this point.
Okay. Let's go division by division then and call these out. You want to start with the NFC East?
Wherever you want to start. Yes.
Okay. I wish that I could have come on here and been like, Commander Super Bowl. No. This is kind of starting to sour a little, and I am only going to kind of throw cold water on my negative takes about the Commanders, because I ultimately was very wrong about the way they evaluated talent last year. But bringing Bobby Wagner back, fucking you. Not bringing De'Ami Brown back is a PU. I don't really understand. I mean, I liked the Laramie Tunsil swing. I think Tunsil's a good pass protector. That was that
was offered. Was just like, okay, have some picks, I guess.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's good. Apparently, they're going to have the capital to retain his services, whereas Houston is on a shorter clock. But like some of these other moves, man, the Deebo Samuel move, all right. The Javon Kinlaw contract was a what?
A lot of money. So they're in.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm with you. This is where my head went first with Washington.
Okay.
It really did. But I think I got to give them a little more benefit of the doubt based on what they
but I'm just saying, like, I had an intention to bet this team to do something special.
No, I just don't.
And now I'm just now, and between the price not being good and really wondering, like, are they going to take a step forward? I'm kind of out on them. So instead of that, my NFC East bet is Giants finish fourth. I'll take out to minus 250 there, and I'm gonna also probably sprinkle a little Dable first coach fired.
Yeah, I mean, what's your most exciting move? Is it getting Paulson and Debo? Like you got a good corner, you got a good
especially
safety.
Love him.
Well, I mean, it's better than what we had, especially And it's funny that they paid.
I guess Javon
They
Holland
paid
is probably the best
Javon
player.
Holland's very good. Like, you needed a safety, but it's funny that they went with like Javon Holland when you had Xavier McKinney, and you could have just signed him like 2 years. You could have just kept him and signed him for probably similar money at this sort of point. So
you know what the bigger point is though, Andy.
Their quarterback situation hasn't been
and
fixed.
and the fact that we're starting to see solidification that the Titans are just going to take Cam Ward. So
The moves that the Titans made kind of make it feel like they're going quarterback.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at more. It seems to me like they're going to draft a not very good quarterback and start him this year and probably finish with a 1 or 2 win season and Dable's packing his bags.
So it's honestly that or go out and get one of these available quarterbacks.
Who?
You're
going to give up assets for Kirk Cousins? You're going to bring Kirk Cousins and make him play outdoors? Don't do it.
I'm still a little soft on that. Based on the stuff he said with the injury that he might have some. But other than that, like, you're bringing in Rodgers and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
You're with it's Rodgers with a much worse roster. The Jets' offensive roster is better than the Giants.
Yeah. Do you think
if they don't get, unless they buy in on Shador, I don't know who's starting week 1. Like, it could be
Drew Lock.
Did Jacoby Brissett sign?
Is Drew Lock still on the team? I think he may have survived, which is a bad sign for them. Tommy DeVito? I don't know. I mean, like, it could be bad.
Brissett to Cardinal. I'd forgotten about that already.
This has Cardinals 2 years ago kind of whiff where, Clayton Tune was getting kicked around as an option.
Honestly, Jameis, massive upgrade.
Oh, it'd be fun as hell. But like, let me guess. Like, so price for Giants to finish 4th. I kind of feel like minus 250 would be a bet.
Yeah, Eagles
I bet even more than that.
Super Bowl favorite. The Giants, the Cowboys will have, a win total of 9 or 10, I suppose. And
you have 3 teams with quarterbacks, and then the Giants.
It might be bigger. It might be a better price than that. It's probably good. It's pretty good. To
minus 400. Yeah. And so, what is Dable first coach fired price in your opinion? Is he the market leader when it opens? Probably.
I would think so. Of the coaches on the hot seat, like, he's the one where, it was clearly called out by ownership. They said, "Hey, we're bringing back.
Hey, you're on the hot seat,
GM, but like, it's a 1-year thing, and they really have to fix something." It's like, that's not how you run a football team. You should just fire him then. It's super silly to think that way and expect these teams or these coaches and this management to do the best for their team, I guess, at that point.
Okay. So what's your NFC East bet? Do you like mine, by the way? You agree with me?
I might just
like, what's the price? What's the price where Dable first coach fired is a bombs away? 4-1, 5-1.
If it has a plus sign.
Oh, come on! It's absolutely gonna have a plus sign on it. The shortest guys in that market are always 3-4-1.
Maybe it's already up yet, and we don't even know this. But I would think him, Callahan, Steichen.
Okay.
He probably opens like 3-1, man. There's not a strong field of coaches to be fired because we got rid of so many last year.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fair point. I'm not even sure who the second choice is.
God, he might be like plus 250. I think the second favorite would be Steichen.
Okay.
And then Callahan and McDonald will be listed.
Callahan's in the mix. Yeah.
Bad results first year.
Wait, McDonald isn't Mike McDonald of Seattle? 10 wins?
So.
Well, he could get fired, but more because Schneider gets fired and they could just clean house.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They clean house because it's like, you guys didn't solve the quarterback. You didn't solve the offensive line. We've given you resources. You bottled it last year. You probably should have won the division. And if he has poor results this year, and if they say, well, I got to get rid of my OC again. You did that last year. We're just cleaning everybody out.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mike McDaniel is probably on the hot seat.
That's a good call. Yeah.
Zach Taylor's on the hot seat.
Oh, you know who might also be is DeMeco.
Tomlin, DeMeco.
If that is
That's
just an
interesting.
absolute, what if that's an absolute dumpster fire down there?
It's an interesting one. Well, save your takes for AFC South. Okay. Well, so what's your NFC East bet?
I'll just ride with you, or I'll say Dable first coach fired as the favorite.
Did you not have a good one?
No, I didn't write any down. I figured I'd just figure them out as we went.
This was your idea. I thought you.
I know. I didn't say I had. I didn't say I had any bets. I pitched this because I wanted to talk it up.
All right, I got a good one for NFC North.
I mean, I do have a
like
couple
it.
in mind.
I think you're gonna like it.
Okay.
The big takeaways for the NFC North. The big takeaways for the NFC North are these were my kind of broad strokes for the NFC North. You ready?
Okay.
The Vikings and the Bears just doubling down in the trenches. Nice moves in the secondary for the Vikings and the Packers. Already have a pretty good secondary for the Bears. Looking at your schedule, you're playing a lot of very good secondaries across the overall over the schedule this year if you are the Detroit Lions. And oh, by the way, Mr. Ben Johnson, who did such a great job of getting the most out of Jared Goff, is now in division. And if there's anyone who really kind of could tell his D coordinator, these are the weaknesses, these are the buttons I'd like you to press, I would expect Ben Johnson can do that for Jared Goff, which for me makes Jared Goff a pretty healthy candidate to have most picks this year. I think the fact that the Lions are going to be up against this absolutely hellacious schedule combined with some of just the around the edges signs here, I think Goff is probably trending down from what we saw last year. He ended up with a pretty large number of picks as it was last year. He has 1 year in his career where he had 16. I think there is certainly a world where they are not ever going away from him, and he is a very healthy, guy to count on for available, for making 17 starts. So I think Goff most ints is live, and I think that's going to be buried down the board a little bit.
I don't hate that. I had to just pull up a screen to see if anyone had win totals up. So I'm curious what the Bears would be. If they opened the Bears at a losing record, I don't hate the finally taking a Bears over. Yeah, they had so many indoor games. JJ, I said this to Sammy P this morning. Vikings win total, 2 bets, over 12.5, under 6.5. Like, this team is all put together and has a good coach. It's just kind of going to come down to if he sucks or not. And there could be some major growing pains. He just might not be an NFL quarterback. Like, Sam Darnold has played in the league. He's been with several, he's learned offenses. Despite what you think about him, he is light years past JJ because he's spent time in the NFL. As far as just saying, I need a guy I can plug and play and I can make it work because I'm Kevin O'Connell and I have Justin Jefferson. Like, having someone who's played a few years in the league, it makes such a big difference for doing that sort of thing. Yeah. You don't have the growing pains where McCarthy might just fucking stink and he might stink out loud.
He's basically a rookie. I think if you give him like an average rookie performance, it's still going to be tough.
Yeah. I do think Minnesota is like a feast or famine team next year where it's like, it could be like a 5-12 team where you have not Justin Fields, you have the Caleb Williams here where it's like, hey, there's flashes, and we just need to get more out of this kid. He just needs more time, or like a better example would be the Drake May, but Drake May's his surrounding cast was so shitty that wasn't exactly what we were looking for. If Drake May would have played in Minnesota, I think they might have had the same amount of wins as they had with Darnold. Jesus, that kid caught on fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like, tell you, man. I like Minnesota as a kind of a long shot.
That Minnesota, I agree with all of your
Super Bowl with the rookie.
I agree with all your sentiment. Minnesota 2 through 53, it's up there in terms of roster ranking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a really
it might
good
be
roster.
the best.
So if McCarthy is like,
is there a better roster? 2 through 53. You've got elite. You've got Look at the names in this O-line now. Look at the wide receivers. I think you have as talented an O-line. I think you have as talented an O-line, and I think you have better receivers. And I think the defense is pretty dang good. I guess the secondary for the Eagles is better. But with the Eagles taking a step backwards in a bunch of areas, I don't know, man. I'll put Pace and Van Ginkel up against
We
Braun.
didn't talk much about the Eagles when we were in the East, but the Eagles seem to be able to just find the next guy up on.
I know it's a lot of there's a lot of vets that moved on in that second unit. Like you now need Kylie Ringo to be awesome. You need Nakobe Dean to come back and be healthy and take a step forward. You're counting on a lot of Jordan Davis now. All of a sudden your right defensive end is a guy named Moro Ojomo. I don't know, man.
I'm gonna write him down when he has like sacks.
They obviously like DeJean and Mitchell are what a way to kind of turn your secondary around on the fly. But there are guys who you definitely are counting on. Who all right, let's see Jalik's son do it for more than just one game, right? Let's see some of these guys perform over the balance of the season. And meanwhile, I think I don't mind kind of holding up Minnesota's roster 2 through 53 against
it's top
Phillies
5
right now.
It's very top 5.
Yeah, and you're right. Yeah, if they hit on McCarthy, and honestly, if they could probably just like slow play it, right? Like kid glove them, like win with defense.
Well, especially since what you've done now is you fixed a very problematic interior offensive line by getting, Kelly and Fries and
those guys rock.
Like
I'm assuming Darrisaw is going to be back and fully healthy. O'Neill's good.
Bradbury can go play guard or go be a backup man. You can just plug Kelly in at center now at this point. Hargrave and Allen on the defensive line. Isaiah Rodgers and Byron Murphy with the re-sign. Theo Jackson, a little bit of an extension there. Like they worked on the defense while also fixing the interior offensive line, and they kept Aaron Jones, which it's not like running backs are super important when you have the right scheme, but I think he's kind of nice that he's used to the scheme, and now we fix that interior offensive line. Maybe you can rely on the run a little more, and like you said, ease McCarthy in. I do like what the Bears did a lot. You got to give the Bears some shine because of what they did. Like same kind of thing. The offensive line in the interior was a dumpster fire mess, and they went and got 3 starters like before they even go out and draft. I'm not so sure they take a tackle at 10 anymore. It's like,
no way. No pass rush, right? Do you think?
I guess it depends what goes in front of them. I think they have a lot of options. Like if there's no tackles off the board and they can get the top tackle, I think you probably still do it. If 1 or 2 are off, you go defense. You can do so many different things now that you fix that. So kudos to the Bears for kind of getting it right. And then I just real quick on the Lions, even though I'm going to be a little down on them, like the DJ Reed, that was a good
move. Nice move. Yeah. But so the other kind of thing where I'm going to be firing on Goff most picks, besides just the fact that Ben Johnson is gone, and besides the fact that a bunch of the defenses in their division got better, they are playing outdoors against the Bears, the Packers, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Eagles, the Commies, and the Chiefs. That road schedule is fucking nasty. It's nasty. It's really tough. I didn't even mention the Rams and the Vikings on the road. Those are your two indoor road games. There's some good secondaries in there. There's some good teams in there. I think there's going to be a lot of panic Jared Goff running around throwing some picks this year. So give me 16 for Jared Goff. That is his career high, and I think that's probably going to be enough to threaten for the all-time or for the pick title this year. For the pick title,
all-time might never be touched.
No. Is that 30 from Winston, or is it more from an old guy?
It might have been more. It's probably like 42 from like Norm Van Brocklin or something.
Single season interception.
Record
passes intercepted.
George
Single
Blanda,
season.
42.
Blanda,
had the name
42.
wrong. 42
Oh,
so many.
Oh, no. For the Houston Oilers in 1962. I would have said under on number of passes attempted if you said 42, and it was ints. Wow. All right.
He threw 36 touchdowns. That is a hell of a slash. He
Wow.
had two 400-yard games. And you got to remember, he was the field goal kicker, too.
There were 12 instances of 30 interception seasons. That's
I wouldn't have
wild.
That's a lot.
Wild. Obviously the most
threw the ball 418 times. That's a lot for back then.
16 was enough for Cousins to take the crown. Or sorry, 16 was enough for Cousins and Mayfield to split the crown last year. The year before it went to Sam Howell with 21. The year before it was Davis Mills with 15. Split with Dak Prescott 15.
It's a ticklish dance because you have to be bad and throw a bunch, but you can't be so bad or there can't be somebody else that they can put in for you. Okay. You're just stuck at 12. All right, next division.
So when we see that pop, I'm excited to see where he is on that list because I just kind of assume he's not going to be near the top. But maybe I'm wrong. All right, NFC South. This is the most boring one, I think.
It really is. There hasn't been a ton. Obviously, it was basically Atlanta hasn't done hardly anything. They lost a center. They lost an experienced pass rusher. Carolina has done a bunch of little moves here and there, and then a couple of big ones with the Bobby Browns and the Trevor Merring. Like they had money and they had so many holes they needed to fill. Like a lot of what they've done made sense. The Saints re-signed Chase Young, I guess, brought in Justin Reed. And then Tampa, I guess I was happy kind of with the people they kept. You got Godwin, I thought, for a reasonable amount. You kept Levante David. It's not a good defense, but he matters. And Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick is a player, and he did need some help in that sense. So, like, you're right, it was boring because all the important moves were kind of Carolina's, and it's just not enough. They put a lot of weight, but it's still not enough to move the bag. Yeah. Move the scale.
Do you
just so devoid of talent?
Do you remember, just off the top of your head, where Carolina ranked in EPA per play on defense last year?
29th?
32nd. It was last. To me, they made like some sound, fine moves on defense to go from 32nd to like 25th. Yeah, exactly. Like 25th. It's not going to be enough. And they did nothing on offense. So Bryce Young, I feel like rise on the line this year.
Re-signed, baby.
Okay. Good work. I generally think they're pretty clearly still in the basement, if not the last. They're still in the bottom half of the division, along with the New Orleans Saints. Huh? Okay. Go for it, man. Run it back with a worse offensive line and an older defense. And maybe this year it'll work with a new coach, but probably not. And I think ultimately Saints, the least watchable game on the schedule all year coming up this year is going to be Saints Panthers. And I know that happened week 1 last year and it was hilariously terrible, but kind of for a different reason. Yes. But those two games are going to stick out loud. And I think the exact finish of Tampa over Atlanta in the first and second in the NFC South is a bet. Tampa, as you mentioned, really did a nice job of retaining good players. They got a hometown discount for Chris Godwin for some reason. Cool by them. They still have a dynamic 1-2 punch there. If they can replace the offensive coordinator with the same level of play construction they got from Lane Cohen last year, then I think they cleanly win the South. Otherwise, I think they're still a much higher floor team than the Falcons, just because the Falcons effectively are starting a first year player, even though it's a second year in Penix.
Panthers did do something on offense. They got Rico Dowdle.
Oh, good call. I mean, why Yeah, I mean, why the Cowboys let him walk, who knows? But I thought he was pretty decent for them. Anyway, I think the Bucks are still pretty clearly the number one roster in the South, and the Falcons are pretty clearly the number two. So I think exact finish 1-2 Tampa, Atlanta would be my play in the South if they were to mark it up for that right now.
I kind of like the exact finish the other way.
Atlanta over Tampa.
No. Saints third, Carolina. Saints, excuse me. Saints fourth, Carolina third.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't know what's going to happen with Kellen Moore and Derek Carr. I don't think he's excited that they're keeping him. I don't love what's going on with that roster. The attrition that's happened to the skill position players by just never finding anyone to replace the guys from a few years ago. And that offensive line is super, super not fixed. Yeah, we should just run it back with Baker MVP. You know what? That's the bet. Baker MVP again. he's gonna have his guys back another year of it, and just third offensive coordinator, I suppose.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck. NFC West, obviously the big move was Geno Smith to away out of Seattle, Sam Darnold in. Actually, you know what? I take that back. The bigger move is that Matt Stafford is not going anywhere. Duh.
I loved how that turned out because like they had an opportunity to let him go shop around a little. Say, there was like no market for quarterback, so it was like a really good situation for him because there's no other good quarterbacks. I know he's a little long in the tooth, but he went out there and did that. It probably just boosted his deal. I think he always wanted to stay. Yeah. It was just let's get $5 more million out of the Rams. They get their receiver, and everybody else in the division is kind of maybe getting a little worse. I know there's divisive takes on what's happened in San Francisco.
I think San Francisco is, I mean, if it weren't for the schedule being very, very easy for them, they're pretty clearly step backwards. Cardinals look like a step sideways.
So why did they take a step backwards?
Who the Niners? I think they lost some important pieces in the secondary. I think losing Ward and Hufanga is meaningful. I think Greenlaw was a meaningful piece. Now, I'm not saying that at this point in time, bringing those guys back at their age and at their cost was in any way correct team building for San Francisco. But when your defense was their defense, same with Debo. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even the who's the guard that they lost, Aaron Banks. None of these guys really were kind of blue chip pedigree at this stage in their careers. But now you got to really test your depth, and you've been, for the most part, you gave away a lot of draft assets to draft Trey Lance, which didn't work out. So you didn't have a lot of talent to backfill in the first place, and then you won a bunch of games the last couple of years, so you've been drafting late, and all of a sudden, there's going to be some pretty important snaps taken by some guys that were taken pretty late in this draft, and if you continue to get the kind of production out of Juwan Jennings that you got last year, and Brandon Ayuk comes back to being the guy that you're paying after the injury, then and Brock Purdy doesn't take any steps backwards, then maybe you have a good enough offense to win 10 games this year. But I look across this defense, and you have an old Fred Warner, you have an inconsistent Nick Bosa, and not a lot else.
I thought when I first looked at this, it'd be like, man, the Rams. But the Rams are going to be a massive favorite, I think, now, just based on how they played last year. And
Hargrave is another one.
How some of this offensive, how this has gone with Seattle. Seattle gives away Geno, which is fine. I think I'm finally on the bandwagon of Geno sucks. He's not, because people are like, his offensive line stunk. I watched some of his interceptions in the red zone. It wasn't like, oh man, the offensive line threw that right to that. He really did make some very key mistakes.
He could only make a 20-yard pass. When the field got short, he sucked.
He was
that was a
bad.
huge problem of his game.
And don't get me wrong, that offensive line was bad, and it may continue to be bad. That defense has struggled at times despite having some stars. So I do think the obvious one is I'm going to back the Rams because they're in
What happened to your camera?
I have no idea. Am I still here?
Yeah, I can hear you.
In the dark.
I
wonder
can
if
hear
my
you.
USB stuff is giving me a hard time.
Oh, maybe maybe your dock is part of the volume problem too. Maybe it's the
Maybe I have
dock.
a new USB
Dock.
splitter thing I have.
Yeah. All right. Well, while you're
I'll figure it out.
fixing,
Either way, no. But anyway,
Yeah.
my what I wanted to say was I kind of want to back the 49ers to win the West because
okay, I'll listen to the case.
they put some money and draft capital into some young receivers last year.
Okay.
Like Ayuk. I don't think Debo was really, healthy enough to make a huge difference like he had in years past. I think Purdy's fine. They still have a very good offensive coach, and they got Salah back. I think he might be able to pull for lack of a better term, pull a Flores from last year and be like, you know what, I'm getting the most out of a mid defense here. It's going to be a top 10 defense, even though the roster looks very mid. And I just think I want to see the price, but I think if they have a good price. I just love the coaching too much.
Who's your favorite cornerback? Is it right cornerback Renardo Green or is it left cornerback Isaac Yiadom?
Defense doesn't matter.
I mean, if you're doubling Nick Bosa, I do fear Uter Gross Matos, Evan Anderson, and Jordan Elliott. I mean, those guys are pressure monsters. No, I mean, I get your point though. Like at the right price, I will consider it too. And I'm not dying to run and bet the Rams to win the West because certainly I think they have some interesting wrinkles and questions. But my bet for the West is going to be Stafford passing yard title. I think the likelihood that that now you have you're kind of back to this. Did you hear my bet, by the way? Stafford passing yard title. I think he's your guy this year. He's going to have to make a 1,200 yard jump relative to last season. He's going to have to play 17 games. There is no world where he gets to rest week 17 or week 18 or any world where he gets hurt and he wins this title. But I like the idea of an offense that's going to be pretty pass heavy with the weapons that exist. In particular, like Devontae Adams, I think still absolutely has it to be a wide receiver too. Like that guy is going to be a very, very significant problem for anyone without two legit cornerbacks. I'm assuming they're going to get some tight end, some young tight end in the draft to add to the mix.
You know who can use him? Gino. He's a monster in the red zone.
Oh yeah,
he's just unguardable in multiple routes in the red zone.
Yes, but c'est la vie. He's no longer a Raider. So I mean, I think Stafford probably has his highest production year passing yardage wise, and I think the number is going to be pretty big on him. I'm shopping around I'm looking for like a 16-1 on that most passing yards. Right, he'll probably be like the 12th or 13th choice, don't you think?
I'd say 8 to 10.
Okay. The other problem is that the West, the Rams' schedule is not easy. They're going to have to score points, I think, in order to realize their hopes and dreams of another West title. I also don't entirely trust the defense. I know that there is a clear perception that they're ahead of schedule. I've heard that a little too many times. But I think it's still a unit that is kind of mid to bad. And despite the addition of Poona Ford, who I don't know why people were gushing over that, but they were, I think this is still a unit that can be passed on. And so I think it's going to be pretty incumbent on Stafford to do a little bit of the heavy lifting for these guys. So give me Stafford most passing yards in the 15-1 or better range.
Be like Niners. Mine's going to be like Niners NFC. Just believing in Salah elevating this. It's gonna be Vikings. Vikings from last year. You got a cherub-faced little quarterback. You've got a good wide receiver one. You've got a bunch of ragtag losers who want to play real hard on defense for a really good defensive coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like they don't have a couple of good players. Yeah. I do hate losing, Warden. It was like it was always going to happen. The Funga too.
Yeah. We're
Kind of
dismiss.
dumb.
We're totally ignoring the Cardinals. Is that fair?
It's hard to like get super excited for this team still. They added some offensive linemen. They added Josh Sweat, paid him a bunch of money. Like they need so much. It's similar to Carolina, where it's like this defense was so bad that I don't know if plugging in 2 or 3 guys is going to help enough to make this a viable team.
Okay. Seattle plays Minnesota in Seattle this year. How does Darnold do against his old boys?
Hopefully bad. I kind of want Darnold to be so bad this year.
Yeah.
Just if you win, KOC wins coach of the year with like 9 wins, just because Darnold is like benched in week 6.
When I first heard the deal, you know how the agents kind of get the first bite at the apple of communicating what the deal is, and it's a fake number. It's a fake number, and it's fake years, and it's fake everything. And when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh shit! This is like the Daniel Jones all over again." Really? Like the Seahawks they saw what happened with Daniel Jones, and they said, "I'll take some of that." I'm like, okay, but it's a very, very non. Like it is effectively I think it's effectively a prove it deal. Like the pain in year 2 is virtually nothing if this does not work out. And I think there is a world where he does not finish the season as the starter if the Seahawks are not winning games and they decide we're in the draft a quarterback next year market. What do you think?
Yeah, that could be it.
So like all under Seahawks.
I don't hate that.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of worlds where they're like 9-8, 8-9.
They have a weird roster. They just have such a weird roster because they didn't find the right guys to play offensive tackle. They slid people around, moved them inside, moved people outside. They got real aggressive on defense at times over the last. Like the defense has been so different year in year out for the last 3 years.
Yeah,
and none of it's worked. And that every year they find a way to like be competitive for part of the season.
Any thought on how adjusting from throwing to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to throwing to Jake Bobo and Marquez Valdez-Scantling is going to affect Sam Darnold's numbers? I know I'm ignoring JSN. I know JSN is there as well, but no, I'm the left guard, center, right guard situation in Seattle is very problematic for Sam Darnold being under center. Luamea, Oluwatimi, and Bradford are protecting him up the middle. Anyone they go up against with quick pressure, I think is a good night. Good night now.
We'll find out a lot more about Clint Kubiak too, as they. I mean,
we surely will. He's a guy.
Dissimilar. He's a guy.
All right. Let's move over to the AFC. Unless you have any closing thoughts. Gun to head right now, you would play San Francisco NFC.
It has to be
as the
number.
price.
Like I'd need like 35, 40.
You're not getting anything close to that. Are you joking?
I'm trying to think.
The Niners are going to be. If you see the Niners 10-1, you've been given a gift.
All right.
No, they'll be like 4th, 5th choice.
Why would they be 4th or 5th choice? I'm thinking like 8th choice.
No.
Eagles, Washington, Minnesota, Rams. Fuck, I'd put the Cowboys ahead of them.
No. Well, then I got bad news for you. You're not betting the Niners this year because they are going to almost certainly be your 4th or 5th choice.
Wouldn't their win total be kind of around 500 this coming year?
No, such an easy schedule. Easiest schedule in the NFL.
All right, I'm talking out of my ass. This is what happens when you don't look at NFL numbers for a couple weeks. You make up prices around. Give me 20.
Okay.
Give me 20 and I'll bet it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm saying I want 50. I want 100. Yeah, if you just letting me make up numbers.
If you get 20, that means that they traded Brock Purdy to Giants. Yeah, and that they're gonna run it back with I don't even know who their freaking backup is right now. They're gonna bring Trey Lance back. It's Brandon Allen. Oh wow, yeah, no, I don't. I think they get a deal done with Purdy, and I don't know. I think they're pretty. Who cares?
They're talking. I think they'll be sticking with them. So all right,
okay.
The AFC East.
Yes, easiest one. Bills win, Jets fourth.
Yeah, the Jets.
Patriots, Dolphins finish in some order in 2-3. I don't think this is really. I don't think this is gonna. The South is gonna be boring just because I don't even know what to say about the bad teams. The East is gonna be fun to preview because I'm fun. It'll be fun to kick around every team, but I don't think there's really much drama here at all. Like the Bills probably 400, 500 to win this division is fair, and the Jets are going to be like 30-1 ish fair. Does that sound right to you?
They usually don't give you those numbers. Even the really, really bad teams that give you like 25.
I'll go 25 minus it was the minus 300.
25.
No, no. My fare is closer to 250. I think the Jets finished last, and I think it's pretty obvious. And I think the likelihood that they pick first next year is pretty decent. I think they've had the worst free agency, and I think it's been by a good amount. I don't understand the players that they want to fill to address the needs on the team, and I don't understand the amounts that they gave to the players that they got. So I am fucking lost. The idea that you went to try to repair some slippage in your coverage by getting Brandon Stevens and Andre Sisco, huh? What?
I mean, Cisco is cheap enough for.
Okay. It just makes it pretty clear that a guy named Darren Moogie. Did you know that was the Jets GM, Darren Moogie?
I do now.
It just makes it seem like Darren Moogie maybe a little bit over his head in terms of.
I'd forgotten that we'd done so many. Yeah, new coaching staff, bringing in a different style of quarterback, not fixing some of the problems in the secondary, not fixing some problems up front. Not probably having a coherent offense for at least the first part of the season. It does feel like another bad Jets season, especially. At least the expectations will be low this year. They've had such high expectations for 2 years. Rodgers runs in with the flag, and oh my God, we're coming back. But yeah, love what the Patriots done. They had $1 million to spend. $1 million. I mean, they had $1 billion. $1 million's not even much.
Probably like what,
used to be
100 million
number. Yeah, when you made hyperbole when you were young, $1 million was a big number. It's not a big number anymore.
That was like the Dr. Evil joke.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There you go. But
$1 million.
Moses Williams, Carlton Davis is an absolute stud. Like they had so many. Again, it's just same boat as Arizona, same boat as Carolina. So many problems. They got people at all three levels. They brought in Mac Hollins, which probably doesn't fix your wide receiver one problem, but it's good enough to help help you on quarterback along. The Carlton Davis one is my favorite one, I guess, but it's not enough, obviously, to go from where they're at to where the Bills are at. The Bills re-signed everybody. The Bills got a pass rusher. The Bills are probably going to be just fine winning this division again and then losing in the second or third round of the playoffs like they like to do. And Miami, I have no idea, man. I never know what's going on with that roster, with the decisions that they're making.
I saw some viral stuff that Tua was fat on vacation, but I don't think that really matters.
Tua's always fat on vacation. It's like the line. There's a line from Pulp Fiction when they're talking about the guy that got thrown off the. It's like, hey, Samoan, what are you?
Yeah, he's Samoan. Yeah, yes, he's Samoan. Yes, yeah. When
kind of a break.
Yes, when Vincent Vega calls him fat, and he's like, "Hey, Samoan, give him a break."
Yeah, he's Samoan.
Give him a break. All right. The signing of Justin Fields while having Tyrod Taylor around to me says that the Jets probably aren't drafting a quarterback at the top of the draft this year. They're going to address some other weakness. Fields, if he's the answer, then I'd love to know what the question is. The Tanner Engstrand offense. Tanner Engstrand, of course, coming from the system in Detroit, like fitting with what Fields does well. Field feels like a little bit of a what? Oh, how is this going to work? I mean, maybe they catch the world by surprise for a couple of weeks, but I have a very tough time seeing this being an effective long-term answer for offense. And yeah, I don't know what's going on with the defense, but it's not anywhere close to the sum of the parts for lots of reasons, I guess. And while Aaron Glenn may ultimately be able to get something out of that group that's, better than the sum of the parts, which he did in Detroit, I can't imagine it's going to be super bang, bang, quick, fast, amazing results. Especially with the fact that you can really pick on these, you could really, really pick on this safety group and the right cornerback. I mean, Brandon Stevens I was shocked he was a day one guy that got picked up.
It's just such a premium position. It's always jarring, like looking at the numbers, like, oh my God, they paid who what? And then you realize, like, oh, it's the salary cap went up again, and they're paying some other guy that's a schmo too, like 85% of that last year. Like it just turns into some teams are going to overbid to fill in positions they need to have, and think maybe they think the fit's right and they can fix somebody. This happens every year too, where it doesn't look like a great signing, and then somebody gets the most out of him. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here. I'm not sold on anything the Jets have done, and I'm giving the Dolphins, like, in my mind, an incomplete. The more I look at what the Dolphins have done and what they have, I need to like sit down for a good hour and just look at their roster. I'm not super sure what the plan is, especially defensively, offensive line, and kind of what the grand scheme is here for a roster construction. So I like where you're at. Jets to win no games.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, the exact result of Bills win, Jets last, I think is, if you can get that in the ballpark of plus money, that's a good one. Well, I mean, I'm looking right now. Bills to win is minus 250 at some spots, which seems not correct. No. Should be much bigger. Anyway, the AFC North. This is the toughest one. This is the one I've had the toughest time with, because I don't know what the fuck is going on in Pittsburgh or Cleveland. And I do know what's going on in Cincinnati, but it's like one of the most lopsided rosters I've ever seen. And Baltimore is so complete and so good, but has a little bit of a tough schedule. So I don't think it's like a slam dunk, no doubt, lay the minus 130 with the Ravens, but that's probably it. Do you have a more fun or interesting take on this division?
I don't know. Like you said, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense what Cleveland's doing. You went and got Kenny Pickett. I think the fact that he started enough games where you could viably say, hey, this could be our starter for the year if Watson is still injured or we're just going to be done with him. It feels bad, especially since you spent all this money on Myles Garrett. And he's just going to waste like 4 more years of his career in purgatory here. I guess I don't know what the defense is going to be good again. They're going to be the same version of the Browns. And did you know that the Eagles and the Steelers played as one team in like 1951? Because so many guys were like, or maybe it was during World War II or something.
Okay.
They combined rosters and they became the Steagles.
What?
I don't know why that popped into my head. You can look it up. It's true. It's worth a Google. But it feels like the Browns and the Steelers have been a similar team at certain points over the last 5 years, where they do that thing where they don't have a good quarterback, but they have a good enough coach, and their defense is so good, they just drag you down in the mud. You score 16 points, and somehow they find a way to like win that game or make it close. There's so many of those games. That's kind of what they're going to have to do. Because if you have Kenny Pickett, who has maybe never thrown for 200 yards, he seems to have his box scores are always like 15 for 19, 118 yards. It's just like I don't know what the offense is going to do this year. That's going to turn this into a fun team for anyone who's watching. But the defense is going to be good enough again where they're going to win some ugly games. And it feels like the Steelers are the same boat, even if they do get Rodgers. What's that leave you? Like, I don't think the Cincy number is going to be super enticing. They're going to be, all gas, no brakes, no defense again. Great offense. If Burrow stays healthy, they just probably win 11 games. But, yeah, it might just be Baltimore. It's so boring. But Baltimore, they re-signed Stanley. They brought in, who's the receiver? They got Hopkins. Never works out.
They got rid of Stevens. In seriousness, the only problem with the roster for the Ravens, special teams.
The kicker's a criminal.
What the hell?
We don't want to get sued. Of all the people, I would never expect. It's the one you least expect. My favorite style of joke on Twitter is people quote tweeting someone saying something problematic, and they also have a problematic username, and they say, it's the ones you never expect, and the guy's username is like Dr. Nazi Rapist, something. It's like it's always the quiet ones. But,
goodness,
I don't know. Like, is he going to be on the team?
I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
So I was going to say Watson is, but he got suspended for a while, and he's a quarterback. They have different rules.
Yeah, it's a pretty dang complete team. I would like to see them do some drafting of cornerbacks to backfill there. But outside of that position, I'm not really sure where the weaknesses are. They didn't really lose anyone that I'm losing sleep over. This is going to be a sick team next year. I kind of want to, I would kind of wait and see what the schedule sequence is, obviously, but like last undefeated team kind of has a whiff, right? If they carry the form that we saw at like Christmas and New Year's last year, and they usually start the season hot anyway, because they play their guys for real in the preseason, like, this could be a team that gets off to a very hot start, so I'm going to look for that.
A little pushback on that.
Yeah, go for it.
It's tough for me to probably ever back the Ravens for last undefeated, because they lose the stupidest games.
Yeah,
and it's usually early in the season. Like, I think about that Raiders game so much.
They're not playing the Raiders this year.
I know, but they'll find a way.
It was 2 years in a row against the Raiders, man. They lost to Jameis Winston and the Browns in an inexcusable fashion.
Yeah, there's always a couple of these just absolute stinkers from no.
Their schedule is very tough. That's the only reason I haven't put any features in on the Ravens yet. They get the Bengals, Browns, Steelers twice, obviously. And the AFC North is matched up with the NFC North this year, which means we're going to get Ravens Chicago, Ravens Detroit, Ravens Green Bay, Ravens Minnesota. It's going to be awesome. They, of course, play the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Texans. Their rando cross 17th game is Rams. And then I know, like, there's the only kind of like real softy stuff on their schedule is they play the Jets. Like, everything else is pretty tough. If you want to assume that the division games are going to be tough, obviously we have no fucking idea who's going to be throwing the ball for the Browns or the Steelers. It might be Kenny Pickett for the Browns, which is insane to me. What sidebar? Myles Garrett and the Browns thing make any sense to you?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just lip service for the fans, like he's a beloved player and we'll pay him. But from a standpoint of what you're doing into the future of this team, it's not how you build a team. It's not who you pay. It always felt like he was coming back because it was going to be hard to move him. But I don't know. They were kind of they've painted themselves into the corner with like everything they've done.
Yeah.
They painted themselves in the corner with Watson. They painted themselves in the corner with this because of what, when he's due up for an extension or a renegotiation. It's like, we're not good right now. We can't pay all this money to a defensive lineman. But we love you, so we're going to do it anyway. And now it's probably going to hurt the team in the long run. But sell some jerseys, I guess. I don't know.
Whew. They did this to Joe Thomas and now Myles Garrett.
Oh, I forgot that same thing, man.
Unreal. Sad. The I don't know. AFC North is confounding me. Other than I think Baltimore just ultimately walks it in. AFC South. The Texans are doing something.
They're basically taking a hit out on their quarterback.
I don't understand.
They've traded their offensive line was bad, and I said this to somebody today too. You know how sometimes there's a bad offensive line? It's like, oh, we're the Bears, and all our offensive linemen stink, and they rotated like 10 guys through, and they're all equally stinky. It didn't matter. It was just like 5 random non-playable characters out there.
Yeah, when
they were.
Yeah.
When the Texans had injuries, it was worse. There was a drop off from the bad starter to the bad backup. Like they had some very, very, very bad guard play when they had some injuries, and they got rid of the anchor, and then they got rid of one of the guards. And I don't know what the plan is because it's not like they have a high draft pick. I don't know what you're doing. Are you going offensive line now with the first pick?
I would think you have to.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an option. There's plenty of guys.
Do they have a tackle on the roster?
I mean, they need interior too. They might end up with that Booker guy from Bama, or I'm not sure what the plan would be here. But either way, they're not going to have.
This is a rough depth chart. Oof.
It's going to start in the 20s. Like the ceiling for the offensive line is probably like 23rd best, and that's
okay.
Which is not a recipe for success for a young quarterback who's trying to get his feet under him. Year 3 here now with who's the OC?
It's Nick Caley, who I want to say they pulled over from the LA Rams, but I don't really remember. He was a Ram guy, or was he he was a Rams guy. Okay. I'm lost. The Texans secondary is going to be fucking sick, but that's about all I can tell you. I don't know why you're dinking and dunking on a lot of these players ultimately. And I don't know how you're fixing the pass pro. CJ Stroud took such a big step backwards last year in that department specifically. And now this doesn't look like a solution at all. Blake Fisher, Laken Tomlinson, Jarrett Patterson, Juice Scruggs, and Titus Howard, your current projected starting O-line is not great. That makes me intrigued to take a price in this division, but you know who it ain't going to be? The Titans. The Titans gave a lot of money to guys who are very average to try to fortify that offensive line. So good luck with that.
Shout out to Dan Moore, who got a lot of money to play tackle.
Dude, they drafted a guy to replace him, and he held on to that job, and now he's getting paid. Yeah,
it just goes to show play the right positions, because when it's an important position and you're probably what's Dan Moore, like league average?
Yeah, that's fair.
League average tackle still makes a shitload of money.
A lot.
It was a pretty good deal for him, so congrats to him for getting that contract.
I think he turned down another deal for this one too, which means there was demand for Dan Moore. Amazing.
Probably.
They have a lot of money and a lot of draft capital invested in a lot of average linemen in Tennessee. A lot. Skoronski was a top 10. Latham was a top 10. Cushenberry was a big spend. Zeitler and Moore were big spends. Like, they have really, really, really put their assets in this basket. If it sucks, then this might be an all-time waste of draft and actual capital. I don't see any meaningful upgrade on the defense, which was pretty terrible last year. Tennessee Titans defense finished 25th in EPA per play. They were not especially good at anything, and I guess Cody Barton and Xavier Woods are players who play football, and they didn't lose anyone other than Landry. This Titans team was pretty unimpressive. I thought Jacksonville is doing Jacksonville is like Cincinnati 2.0. They're just going to try to run offense, and who the fuck cares about the defense? Apparently, like this is absolutely
problem.
Is absolutely crazy how bad this defense is going to be this year. It's going to be fucking atrocious, which leads me to Brian Thomas Jr. most receiving yards. Liam Cohen is already on the record that was like, we're going to freaking nuclear target this guy. Trevor Lawrence is back. The pass protection looks pretty good. You're going to have to score 40 points if you want to win a game. This feels like BTJ goes for 2K. BTJ 2K?
Big number on offensive player of the year.
Ooh.
Like that's who you got. You got to pick out the wide receiver that's going to take the big step and have like 1,800 yards because they're
35 to 1 enough. Is 35 to 1 going to be enough? I'm just saying. I'm just spitballing. Is 35 to 1 going to be enough? You need like 50 to 1.
I think he should be listed more than that. I mean, just think about who's going to be near the top with it. It's going to be Chase Jefferson, Saquon,
Gibbs, Puka, Derrick Henry, Bijan, CeeDee Lamb, Nico.
Lamar's
yeah, Christian McCaffrey's probably going to be up there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyreek Hill.
I bet he's 100 to 1.
Ooh, okay.
I think in my head I was just thinking triple digits. He's 28 to 1.
I'm kind of more inclined to take most receiving yards in like the 10 to 1 range than I would be to take the price of like 35, 40 to 1, I think, if that's what it ends up being. We'll see.
I just hate it when
oh no, he's 28 to 1. Oh no. For most receiving yards, that's nice. But for OPOY, that's not a bet. No.
I can't get behind anything Jacksonville most points given up, maybe. Like we talked
that's
about,
a good one.
Tennessee's rebuilding. Obviously, it looks like they're going to go quarterback now. And then the Colts are kind of like the Dolphins for me. Not sure what we're doing. I'm not sure what we're going to see at quarterback. It could be some Daniel Jones time. And that defense needs some help too. But they got Charvarius Ward.
Here's my Colts take. You ready?
That secondary needed a boost. So Bynum and Ward, those were great moves. But it's not gonna be enough to like move this needle to make him a
Gus Bradley to Big Lou might be also nice. We'll see.
Yeah, two teams, the Niners and the Colts, probably made some pretty sizable upgrades at DC.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. When Daniel Jones to the Colts thing happened, there was a little bit of like around the NFL verse, kind of shitting on Anthony Richardson. Right?
It's Daniel Jones. That can't feel good.
It can't, but he's not winning this job. This feels very fake quarterback competition-y to me. Daniel Jones was awful last year, particularly at downfield passes, which is how this offense is structured. Like if first of all, if Daniel Jones wins this competition, everybody's losing their jobs. And second, I don't think it's realistically possible that he could win this competition. So I think that this makes me want to buy low on the sentiment right now around Richardson. That this is literally just to kind of light a fire under him to really kind of put in the work this offseason so that he's ready to go and he fixes his mechanics and he does the Josh Allen leap that everyone was expecting for year 3. Like they're trying to make that happen. The problem is I don't love that they basically let a lot of really talented offensive line out the door. That could affect certainly his effectiveness in the red zone as a rusher. And he still does have a lot of health question marks swirling around him. So, Yeah, I wanted to be the kind of only bull on the corner for the Colts after this, but
Was most points allowed? That's a market, correct? I didn't.
yeah,
see
of course.
that. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to see what Jags are in that. I think they might be a worse defense than even some of the really bad defenses.
I mean, they are a really bad defense.
Yeah, I know, but
they were
schedules too.
They were 31st last year, man, and
so they should be one of the favorites.
I think they're even worse. I think they might be even worse than last year. Honestly,
that's what I'm saying. I don't think they did anything to get better.
They have Josh Hines Allen. They have whatever Trayvon Walker is, and
number one pick, baby.
Yeah. Woo. Woo.
Right.
DC Anthony Campanelli has a lot of work to do, Andy. But I think Liam Cohen has already tipped his hand about BTJ being the focal point of the offense. And also, I like the fact that they got De'Ami Brown to be a second banana. I like the Hainsey and McCarry moves as far as kind of shoring up the interior. This looks like a fine offensive line. If Trevor Lawrence is healthy, I think BTJ is going to threaten 2K. Ready to wrap this up? AFC West take.
AFC West.
You want to know a couple of my draft takes, or do you want to kind of just steal the show here and tell me your thoughts about the Geno Smith, Pete Carroll homecoming, and it feels so good?
I still think Geno sucks, but having a really good tight end maybe helps quite a bit in some of the red zone, issues he's had. Playing indoors maybe helps him. I think he can have an okay year. I think people at the end of the year are going to say, like, that was an okay move. It wasn't like, oh, the Raiders took a huge step forward and that was a coup and they absolutely crushed him. But I think at the end of the year he's going to have an okay year and people are going to be fine with it.
You're talking about Geno Smith, right?
Geno, yes. I don't know what we see. I like that the Broncos are still like going and getting defensive players, even though it's a strength. Like they're the anti-Jaguars. Like, it was really good last year, the defense. We should do get Hufanga. We should do get, just adding defensive players. We'll see what they, what they do in the draft here and what they do to help out their young quarterback. But I mean, it's kind of another boring. Evan Ingram. I guess the Evan Ingram move was nice, but I don't know like who's going to take this step forward amongst these teams because it's it should be the Chargers, I suppose, but they still have a very weird roster. The Broncos are predicated on defense and a really fast white quarterback, and the Raiders have a very, very incomplete roster.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think the Raiders do in the draft now that they're out of the quarterback market, but they still have a top 10 pick?
Yeah.
What's your move?
The Boise State running back.
Yeah, it feels right.
Yeah.
Well, because there's pass rushers there, and that's nice, but they have
they have Wilkins and Crosby.
I don't know that they want to reach for like a tackle at that point.
They have tackles.
Yeah, that's kind of their strength. And you can't go interior yet. So it's likely you say, hey, we're adding a strength and taking another pass rusher. We're getting the top cornerback, or we're getting a running back.
Yeah.
It's the Raiders. It'd be fun. Plus, wherever Genty goes, I would like it to be turf.
Oh, hell yeah. No question.
You don't want him in like Pittsburgh.
The Raiders' starting running back right now on their depth chart is Sincere McCormick.
Yeah,
they
really dug deep for starters last year.
No, I think they're going to take the running back. I think his over/under should be 7.5 or 6.5. What are Raiders take six pick? Yeah, I would put his number as 6.5. All right. I think I flirted with having a Broncos win the West take. I didn't really flirt with the Chargers will win the West take. The Chargers feel very 500 to me.
Greenlaw. Yeah, Greenlaw's the other I knew they got another defender that I liked.
Yeah.
Adding Greenlaw, adding Funga, adding Evan Ingram.
In the end,
Broncos to make the playoffs. It won't be a big number, but
I know that's a nice one. In the end, I think the play is going to be bet the Chiefs in season at some point to win the West, because this kind of feels like the year where it's not easy for them, right? Like they're going to have to win 4 of their last 5 to wrestle control away from the Broncos or the Chargers. Who knows?
They don't win. They don't win every single close game again.
Yeah, it's good. I feel it has those whiffs about it. But so I think ultimately it is just going to be the Chiefs, and it is no fun. It is very boring to bet the Chiefs at this price right now. So no, thank you. I think the answer is pretty obvious, and it's Geno Smith most sacks, most sacked quarterback.
You think it's going to be a deep ball offense? He's got a great deep ball, but
yeah, I do. That's what he runs. Like
I know, but
here's really what I just want to say about this, and then why I think this is the angle.
Okay.
There are a lot of smart people. There are a lot of ball knowers who were, very reactionary to the Geno Smith move, who hold Geno Smith up pretty high, and it doesn't really pass the smell test, but fine. These same people, I think, have come around to the idea that, like, in a large way, sacks are a quarterback stat. And I don't think it's fair to say that this was all the offensive line for Seattle last year. Like, Geno needs to wait for plays to develop because of the part of the field where he wants to attack. He does not take dump offs. He does not, especially, he doesn't well execute short stuff, or intermediate over the field stuff, really. He just wants to hit 20 yards down the sidelines. And I think that there is an enormous amount of he is a part of the problem when it comes to getting sacked. And I am not going to be surprised if he is a sack machine, considering the interior offensive line that exists here with Jordan Meredith, Jackson Powers Johnson, and Dylan Parham.
I'm pushing back on this. I think this is a bad take.
Okay, you think that this was all Seattle's offensive line? Geno's the only quarterback in the NFL where sacks or quarterback stat doesn't apply.
It's always a spectrum. You know how it is. Like, it's never 100%. Obviously, a bad offensive line will exacerbate that. But who's been good at developing offensive linemen as an offensive coordinator? Is Chip Kelly.
Okay.
I think he matters, and he's matured. He doesn't, he didn't run like a spread like he ran 10, 15 years ago. It was more, kind of what we see pro style. And if he can help the offensive line out and, run something that just involves I think it's going to be running heavy and a lot of the tight end. I don't know if they need to say, like, hey, Geno has to go deep all the time, because that's what he does. Because I think Geno can run a dink and dunk, pro style, West Coast, whatever you have. And if that's the case, because if you saw the problems last year, I would run an offense where those problems don't crop up. And maybe Geno just stinks and it all falls apart. But I kind of like Chip Kelly in this spot. I like the Chip Kelly hire a lot more than the Pete Carroll hire.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic for the Raiders because it's a weird build. I just said 4 different times in the podcast I think Geno stinks, but I like Chip Kelly. I obviously love Brock Bowers. I think they have the tackles, and if he can coach up the interior a little, and they draft this young running back, it could be a fun team. Like, the Raiders could be a team with a winning record that just misses the playoffs next year if things work out offensively. Like, Chip Kelly has to click, and the defense will probably be a problem, but the offense can overcome a defense most times. So I'm a little optimistic for the Raiders. It's been a long time since I said that.
Okay. Well, Geno Smith did have a pretty meaningful time to throw last year, pretty comparable to CJ Stroud, and they were very comparable in terms of number of times they got sacked. And I don't know that I can divorce that from this having been beaten into my head that sacks are in a large part a quarterback
They are
sack.
too, but you know what? I really think a lot of it is scheme too, and obviously things weren't working out with that coordinator. And so much of so much of what made Darnold successful is scheme and coaching. And I do think it just matters who's running the offense, who's putting the scheme and the game plan together. Yeah, I think that's one of the most interesting questions this season. Is like, does Geno have anything? Is it going to work out?
It is going to be a very interesting question. To close
Kinda
the loop
excited now for the
on
Raiders.
some points that, I mean, the other problem with the Raiders though is that they are in a very, very difficult division.
Well,
Like
that's
these
what I
are
say. Like the bet would be the Raiders to make the playoffs, or Chiefs Raiders 1-2. Chiefs Raiders 1-2 might pay all right.
man, you might be on Raiders Island this year, man.
I
Without
know,
me.
you got to pick a team and get on an island. You can't. It's no fun not to. I'm gonna watch more of Chip Kelly's shit from last year.
Okay. Pressure to sack ratio. You
He
want
doesn't
to?
play for that team anymore. It doesn't matter.
Well, no. You think,
moot.
but pressure to
Moot.
sack ratio? You think pressure to sack ratio is moot?
It is.
The ability to identify and avoid pressure and
We've
keep pressure from being turned into a sack. You think that in any way is?
I think it changed. I think a scheme change can fix it. I think coaching can fix it. I don't think it's like it's some genetic disease where he can't be cured of it. No, I'm not. See, I think we're arguing two different things. I don't. He was terrible at taking sacks last year. He's terrible at throwing picks. I'm saying he's fixable in that sense.
Okay, interesting.
It's the same thing with Darnold. Like, do you ever thought you'd see that kind of play out of Sam Darnold? And then obviously, the pressure was on. That's the thing too, where I think Darnold is bad. Where was he the worst last year? When there was finally expectations. He comes in with low expectations, plays good. Finally, they pile the expectations on, and he melts like a fucking cheap candle in a nuclear blast. I mean, it was rough. And if there's high expectations from
You know what?
because he got paid, he's expected to be. He was a bridge quarterback. He went in there. It was going to be JJ starting. Maybe he starts a couple games to warm it up. But like now, it's like you're getting paid. You're the starter. You need to win games. I think he's going to be so bad.
There were some pressure spots for Geno Smith last year where he melted. There were some pressure spots for him in the San Francisco playoff game where he was terrible. So let's.
I don't ever think he's going to be like a top 5 quarterback.
It is wild though to me for sure that I mean, just this is crazy. Geno Smith faced 244 pressures last year on dropbacks, conceded 50 sacks. Sam Darnold, 245 pressures last year, conceded 48. So nearly identical in terms of pressure sack.
That's going to be my big data bowl project next
year.
Is
it? Time to throw, also relatively similar. Number of dropbacks, relatively similar. Game state was usually more positive for Sam Darnold than Geno, but not by a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see how it goes. I think Geno as your being sacked leader is live. Without looking, I know you know this. The leader in most sacked last year. You got it? It was by a lot.
Not Levis.
No, Levis only got sacked 41 times, but it was only on 144 pressures. Levis's pressure to sack ratio was the highest, the lowest in the league, which is bad.
Why is this not clicking like immediately? Was it just Stroud?
Stroud was second. Geno was third. Sammy D was fourth.
Oh, it was Caleb.
Caleb Williams.
By like a lot, wasn't it?
By a lot. He had 68 He got sacked 68 times
I don't
last
know
year
why that
compared
took
to
me so long.
52 from Stroud.
And I was just thinking of like whose offensive line sucked. I'm like, oh God, Caleb Williams got sacked like 60 times. 68,
68 times. Yeah.
That's a ton.
Yeah. He was the most the highest conversion of pressures to sacks went to Will Levis. Second highest conversion went to Caleb Williams. Third was Jalen Hurts. Fourth, Jaden Daniels. Fifth, Russell Wilson. Interesting. And I think actually really those guys' numbers are lower because their pressure number was lower, not because of the sack conversion, but whatever. All right, man. Final closure on a couple of key points. You ready?
Yes.
1943 was the year that the Steelers and the Eagles were merged to be
So
the
it was
Steelers.
World War II.
It was 1943. And you know what? It must not have gone great because they didn't get back together for 1944, Andy. In 1944, it was the Cardinals and the Steelers who merged for Card Pitt.
That's a lot. Well, I suppose Philly to Pittsburgh's a ways, but so is Chicago to Pittsburgh. It feels further.
Well, Card Pitt merged that year, and they had two home fields. Yeah. Chicago, they split their home games between Chicago and Pittsburgh.
It's a huge pain, but
before we wrap here, I got to ask you, you got any flyers for the players?
I played a young Texan named Scotty Scheffler at 550.
Never heard of him.
I think it's one of those things where it's not if but when, and it's about time. And then I did play Michael Kim at 70 to 1.
Jeez.
He's playing the best golf of his career. It's akin to one of my favorite things a crap stealer can say. So you have the old asshole that walks up to the table, 0.6, roll, 4. And he's after the 4 comes out, he says, give me 12 on the 4 or whatever. And he does that 2 or 3 times after the number comes. And then eventually the dealer usually says, they pay better when you bet them before they're hit. I mean, some people just do that. They'll start I'm betting on repeaters or whatever. It's the same thing with, like, I'm going to feel like such a dumb shit if Michael Kim finally wins a tournament. It's a big one. He's a big number. And I was like, well, he only played the best golf of his life for 5 straight weeks. He gained in every category. It translated from the California courses to Florida. It's still working. He's just top 10ing everything. And, you know, it's a week where there's a shitload of variance. So I took him top 20 as well. Not a big card this week.
Okay, interesting. The players always feels like
he's very Twittery too.
Yeah.
He loves getting on Twitter and chopping it up with people.
Oh, good. That's always usually a sign of a well-adjusted adult. True or false on some of these points here that I'm going to make about the players. Just want your take. This is the course that has the least least powerful signal when it comes to course history.
Yeah, it's one of them. I mean, there's so many champions have like multiple miscuts as well. And
it's pretty elite players that usually win. Pretty much.
There have been long shots. Siwoo Kim won here a few years back. And, I mean, there's been some 100-to-1ers, but it's either like very chalky or a nice big long shot. And long shots are rarer. Okay.
So and usually it's like elite player coming in with a hot hand.
You do got to be kind of hot coming in. You got to be ball striking great, and you got to be able to overpower a course like this.
Okay. What do you think of the Morikawa price? That got short real quick.
Yeah, he's playing as good as anybody. He's a top 5 player in the world right now.
Yeah,
like, he should be priced that way.
He hasn't had a negative round this year.
No, he just doesn't win. Like, great top 10 bet.
Okay.
I bet some top 20s too. I took.
So he's going through. So he's going through the Xander phase of his career.
I mean, a bunch of guys are. Cantlay hasn't won in like 50 starts.
I thought for sure he was going to win one the other day. Which one was it?
JT hasn't won in like 50 starts. I mean, there's some really good golfers. Golf is super hard. It's kind of like fantasy football where it's like you got to do all this prep and you got to get your draft right, and then things have to work out right for you injury wise. Same thing. You got to be really good at golf. You got to beat the course. You got to get the lucky bounces, and then somebody else can't have the day of their life. Because sometimes you have a day that wins a tournament 8 times out of 10, but somebody else has a better one, and it just nobody remembers who got third that day.
I like it. Weather look good?
The weekend looks kind of shitty.
Sunday really?
Sunday might be good. Well, it could be fun. It could get windy.
I burned a lot of money back in the day. You remember that like crazy, insane windy one that was like 3-4 years ago? Probably 3 years ago.
Yeah, I gotta find it. Okay, Sepp Straka top 20. I think somebody in the chat said that as well. I like that a lot. Wyndham Clark top 20. Michael Kim top 20. Nick Taylor top 20. All with ties.
I dig it.
So that's the whole card. Taking it kind of easy because betting some conference tournaments, betting a little basketball, got football. I got to save the powder for some draft bets in about 3-4 weeks here. Those will come up. And I'm going to bet a shitload of tournament games next week.
I love it, man. March
Madness, baby.
I love it. You in any conference tournaments so far?
Oh God, I've done so bad on those.
Oh really?
I've had like every wild upset is up against one of my teams, or when I take the dog, they just completely don't show up. I think I've gotten Drake right, and one other. I've had a few in the finals, but I never hedge those because it's always smaller bets. They're for fun, but
sure.
God, I would still be nice to win more than I am right now.
Who do you like for the big dance? Not that I'm going to cross them off. I just want to know.
I'll just say Duke.
Oh no!
Sorry.
Oh no!
Sorry.
Damn it!
I'm an Auburn guy. I do think they can.
Okay.
I think they can make a run. I like Rutgers tonight. I bet them to win the Big Ten tournament at like 200 to 1.
Okay.
Big Ten tournament can get weird. Michigan, they go through Michigan. Honestly, you should bet Purdue and Rutgers because like Michigan just isn't coming out of that section. I don't think.
Wow, that is a very confident take. Do they have a bad injury?
Back to just not good.
Oh.
Back to golf quick too. There's always a promo code for BetSperts Golf in the YouTube description, and the offer that I had on there wasn't an offer we had anymore, so I had to change it. And I like to use specific promo codes so I know like where people are coming from. Like, did you sign up from a YouTube video? Did you sign up for a newsletter, an email? It just helps me kind of track what's working or where people are coming in from. So I had to come up with a new promo code. And after a while, you fucking run out of promo codes. And I hate the XGY1307 promo code stuff. I like it to be a word. So the promo code for BetSperts Golf right now in this description is Drew's hair.
Really?
Yeah.
Fluffy? Curly?
Hair.
Oh, okay.
Just like,
okay. All right. All right.
All caps.
Get your golf on.
Drew's hair.
All right. Well, anything preventing us from doing another one of these next week and the week after and the week after? I don't think so, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay.
What do I got coming up?
I don't really have anything. I'm pretty locked in until the Derby.
Yeah, I might do some traveling here in April, but otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, I got some long weekends, Palm Springs, Mammoth.
Going to Wisconsin Dells this weekend.
Oh yeah?
Are you familiar?
That's like the water park?
It's a shitty resort. It's not shitty. It's nice. It's a resort town, but they have like 7 indoor water parks.
Oh,
up here, you need something to do in the winter. And,
of course.
But it's for a volleyball tournament for my 13-year-old, and it is somehow, you go to all these tournaments, you got to pay to get in. It's like $6, $7, whatever. It's like just $25 a head. No discounts for kids. Like my wife was mad. She's like, it costs us $75 to get in and watch the kid. Like, yeah, that's what happens. You go to the big town, Wisconsin Dells. So I got beef with Wisconsin right now, and it costs to park. I'm not even like into volleyball right now. It's like the last tournament of the season. So that's my weekend. It's shot. I'm going to be watching Selection Sunday from a hotel room.
Wow. Bummer, man.
I mean, it'll be fun. I'm going to go to they have a rock and roll Denny's. I like that.
Monday is St. Patty's Day. You got that going for you.
I might get
which is nice.
We have a really good bagpipe band up here.
Ooh.
Like a bagpipe corps. I don't know what they're called. But they're pretty good. I'll go find them. I'll go to the bars. So happy, I guess have a happy weekend. Have a happy St. Patty's Day. We'll check in with you next week.
I can never find the outro music, man. Fuck is it?
Do.
There it is. Good Lord. That's on me. Of course, it's in background music. I should just look there first.
They moved it. It's harder to find.
All right. Best luck at the players.